Okay. Ist gut.
Yeah, I think better wait.
Okay, that's fine. So you have the same page number? Oh, it's a loading. 내가 알았어. 우진 율진 업장 삼배만 개설은 동보라 연생 조기 무덤 예배만 주니 시순당 거도 간도 몸배 고런 지진 지순당 점지 신지 람지레 시수소 구름 뱀 Sinde hongo je yulje nobjan sambe ma gesra dombo la yansen joge mudum nye be ma june jesu da gordo gando mombe goran jeje jesu da dum je shinje lam chre jesu zo guru be ma Sinde hongo je yulje nobjan zambe ma gezra dombo la yansin chogi Mudum nye be ma jone shizu da kordo kando mombe goron chiji jesu da dum je shinje lam jire shizu zo guru be ma Sinde hongo gozan dorzem garam shire zembe magar jimba nisho ma susura numya derden jasa so gadre lam numla so ande omen cheje inje bodana de zum sanj kunji mo ne razim chego Tenze banza velam namla soan debe kunjo sumlan da jam jindi ba mige sosro jandu enge jiran sanje janju son sanje chuda soche la janju bardo da jam jiran jindi nye ramdum chire janju chugi Simni je paraje janchun choje simni je je ne simje damje dage drondo nire janchun je Yewan je paraje dola penjre sanje Dumbara sho
Sajim Pechun Jojim Medo Tam Rirali Nide Jemba De Sanje Shindo Mide Pulwai Dogon Namda Shinla Jubra Sho Dam Guru Rana Meda Puza Menga Samoda Sabaran Samaya Semje Namje Sambad Loye Jenda Jendambar Chechon Dema Debai Chenjen Korolo Korondo So
Katin Sunda Majiva Kamsun Chiki Giva Zavi Lamisha Kitil, Dima Membala Goyuram, Debusum Giva Chimekoni, Chazajin Jazu Jio, Zeramne Zeratam Jitu Jesu Shichin, Lavar Zedu, so Gangi Jazun Daring among the Zombelona. Sende Sevese to Seve to Gamiki to the Juror, to Jidamakuni, Jurin, Jedesum Gekon, to Van Bemaka, Vesha Bedin, Dollar Bedo, Jong, Wujin Dollar Bemendon Water. The number Ranjan in Jedu, Sandabiji, Yonzo, Bema Jun, and Dali Bezo, Jong, Jinjin, the Jagan, the Gora, Wujin of the Mamma. Lotte Kundin the Juru Gosna is Mamela Jun, Gola Devagan, Champion of Bemajani, Kundin the Winzogi. Yitopamagar was on Bijal, as on was the Dongi Dawachin, Ningamazalo, the Joe, the Young Jangi Bema and I. Kange Togar Engine Bengal, Indian Gunjunga, get the Ningat and the Baby Night. Lonjan Rajan Jala so one day, the Gonjaman General, Gombelon Lebo Bended, Londo, the Jazon, Mimam Jambi on Lajan, so one day, Japan Gindola, to me of the younger. Also Lonjan Namkin, Najurba, Chimmy, Bishop Solwa, de Pavajitan on the Towatalin, David. Tese donde longen na jamba, jimin jevi nyugur zawade, chitar jevi sewa shiwala, nandan rubi wanju shawari. Sawa pancho dunga, randunga, jimi chuki wambo sawa ande, chuchi dugaro nyamalo shi ilo jerima kada inzuya. Sawa jimbi na lungo zaya, londo dembi nyimar zawade, dusun jawa kunyi ishi go, pajindo jebo nyembi mala. Yeshi chumi karki ngaki wang bama lede tala sawa de, rizun jimbo jimi lingwa ye, samde tabo kwanza shimbi. Samye chutu chowe ramo che, pachanti wa tala sawa de, kinga genze rambu chambi be, nindi ngormi karki karaba. Sansan da jitu be lama cho, tupden chuki dawara sawa de, yunden sanji kunna nyamna yang, kati sanji kunle lawe gen. Tsawe lami shabla sawa de, daso doye lona chola injur, Kanda choche tongi chitena, deje lomar chorba kaan suda. Deng dir tenbe chuki chara bebe, sembar deba tamje dirshi shi, namalayi ke damlo damlo jendan rubum dala. Mi ke namdan rawa bingi danam jidam par, tamje ke do chujang tujur ji. Then always remember to have this right motivation, generating bodhicitta, and then having this pure view, the skill, the great skillful method that seeing wherever you are is the place that Buddha filled, all the gathering are also pure. If there are some mosquitoes bothering you, that they are also pure. And then try to listen to this teaching with attentiveness and also keeping in mind that everything is empty and illusory. So now we are discussing about the words of my perfect teacher. So when I was reading that, I was thinking that even though we are not really able to fully practice it, at least listening to it, reading it, and then just for, in this case, kind of close to 2 hours, or like time to time, even just for a few times, then if you're able to think about this, wonderful teachings, then it will be, keeping the seed of liberation. And of course, if we practice, definitely there's all this great benefit. Then we have finished this, the preciousness of human rebirth, and so in Chögyal Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche, in his book, Not for a Happiness, so how he make it easy for us to understand is saying that where human beings are free and rich. So he uses a simple term. So the freedom that we have is, so what is that prevents us from being free? That is our distraction. So all those 8 unfavorable conditions that the traditional book was teaching us summarizes to this one point, which means then they are always distracted, either distracted with pain or distracted with the happiness. So boils down to the point that if you're not free, that means you're distracted. Then if we do, then what is the richness? Then he says, if we have no distraction, we would be free, and if we were mindful, we would be rich. So this usually talking about 8 freedoms and 10 endowments, and then Patu Rinpoche added another set of 8 each, so 16. So all of them then boils down to these things. So if you are distracted, you are not free. If you are not mindful, then you're not rich, or you don't have that advantage. So then, he boils down to these 2 things, which makes sense, right? And then talking about 10 advantages and all this. So basically you have this richness. And of all this richness, then the highest form of richness that one must have is the mindfulness. So this is how he summarizes the preciousness of human rebirth. And now we are discussing the impermanence. So the impermanence of the whole universe in general, that whole world, the whole universe is impermanent, is always moving. Even the modern science says the same thing, right? It just there was a big bang or whatever, and then it is spread. It's still moving. The whole galaxies are moving, and then finally somehow they get again reabsorbed in the black hole. And then you are in this black hole for some time, and then another big bang comes, and then we have another big bang, and and the big kind of sucking up into the big black hole. So like that, then thinking in general like that. Then impermanence of the beings, everybody, is dying, dead, and then even the holy beings, including Buddha Shakyamuni and all this, they, even though they are beyond birth and death, they have conquered that. Yet, to show us that everything is impermanent, then they also pass away. So thinking about that. Then impermanent of those who are in positions, always, changing. And other examples of impermanence that, and that many, like the kalpas, and then they're talking about in this Gult kalpa, all this different fluctuation of various lifespan of the human beings, and then like that. Everything changes, and then so other examples of the impermanence. That's what we are talking, I think. So in this way, then you see that everything, whatever you see, then is always changing, always perishable. And so then as coming to our body is also impermanent. I think we were like what Jetun Miller said, I think we did that, right? This corpse, just by seeing it, is so fearful to behold. It already is already right here, our own body. So when we are living, when we are able to move a little bit, so we are so attracted to it. Once our life is gone, then it becomes a corpse. And then he's talking about generally how then the Tibetans, their funeral is not like, I don't know what the word to use. Look like not too civilized, or because we bind them, with ropes, and then sometimes just given to the birds. But ecologically, I think it's this good, or we just feed the fish, or then burning, cremation, but not like in the West you put in an funeral home and put all this makeup. I've been to some funerals and they look sometimes maybe even prettier than the living beings. So anyhow, like that, to see that and in all these cases, the only one during the time of death and after that, there's nothing but only the Dharma can help. Tambichu nyama re edrup chine jang bege nyamdu yang samso, as only Dharma is unfailing, because in the difficult times, then you can reflect on this Dharma through your own contemplation, and also then seeking the help from the three jewels, your Lama and all that. So how much you are able to being able to handle death depends on how much you are able to train yourself just now. When we are still living, when we still have some control over ourselves, so that's how we should be training. It's like first when you go to war, then the soldiers have to be trained, what you call the boot camp, right? So how well trained that you are. So depending upon your training, then when you are in the battlefield, then you will be able to use these skills to confront your enemies. Similar like that, then when we are living, so if you are able to practice Dharma, contemplate on whatever we have been discussing time to time as much as you can, then when all this death and the bardo, and so during that time, then definitely the Dharma will be there for us. So this is saying that whatever is born the conclusion, the end is death. So however you are able to accumulate, be a billionaire, trillionaire, so is finally would be exhausted. Zambolingla wang jebe jebo tabu yang tar chambur jubi du yejing Cete longje pensun soba mangbo ceme juze longje tamje zede je togdir shiwadang naning nakchuk jata mangbo yoba yang gang dang xue dang göka ge kenyen andalo chambur jurwadang karsang ngadang longje du zombi chugo yang de lang ne dering longmor jeba la sobar duma rangre tongche sujurba yena. So you can see that just in the past they were rich and famous, and then gradually then you see that they are all becoming like poor, and they don't have that kind of like the abundance and then wealth, friends, families, and seeing like that. Longje norze layang takbar wangju miyongwe jinbi jakche dukgyu nyamdu yang sam. So it's saying that whatever, if you can, then as a practice of the generosity, then you have to the wealth, then you have to practice generosity. So never forget that generosity is the most important capital to build up. Then Diva Thamje Mitabar Telte Yulkamgi Tsongdu Chemboam Chura Chemborere Yulta Debe Mitongta Mambo Tongta Gam Tita Mambo Dijang Teda Tham Jenjang Tar Rang Soso Gi Yulde Geba Shin Data Rangre Lalo Bam Penyo Yuanche Drokche Punda Zatsang La Soba Tsewe Doba Namjang Tar Jijang Middle Tap Me Chiwaham Telgen Dabo Lobol de Juni Data Rangla Rangyang Middle Ngeba Mede Dena Chedo Dang Zatso La Soba Data Henchik Dibi Didir Chang Telter Sosro Delor Jirwa Yimbe Kongto Dang Tabje Nyen Sham Dang Tamo Sok Mijebar Yunring Dropping Eba Mebar Telnang Yu Zamba Dir Tsewe Droshin Jongge Nyamdo Samgyo days. Then whatever gathering you have, either in the Dharma gathering or in your family gathering, so he's saying whatever is gathered, then finally there would be separation. So when we are together, instead of kind of making enemies, and then instead of just talking gossip or arguing, so that the short time that we have together, then he is saying that you have to try to be compassionate, tolerant to each other, and then practice. Padambe, so he said by Padamba, Satsangmita, Tsongdu Tumbola, Nyansham Tamo Maje, Dingriwa, Shesons. So the Padamba Sangye came to Western Tibet, and then this is what he said. Families are fleeting as the crowd on market day. People of Dengri don't blicker or fight. So, then the next one is, then Tsikbi Kar Tamjinjang, Gyalor Jirwa Yinde, then whatever is being built is also one day will collapse. Darshin Jebi Tong De Dang, Gene Tong Bishul Di Da Lion, Kiwi Da Sambo Yoba Yinde, Tatagi Nekap Na, Jadang Jiu Changdu Song. Hase Chizong de Zingi Ringna Tulbi Soyu Shengbi Ujen Sanje Nibe Rabne Zebi Sami Ute Rimsum Tabur Yang Mei Nebe Shalji La Shik Chögel Songzengambi Dusu Marbori Podang Namjel Kazan La Tenda Tabu Yoba Yang Tata Mingdo Tamyang Maliba Yina Rangri Trong Chimdang Gene Busang Tabu Dila Chete Su Jena Chishikje. So then whatever is being built is going to collapse. Then giving the example that even the Sami monastery was built by the great Dharma king Tizong Dechen, and then consecrated by Guru Rinpoche. Yet it couldn't, survive the fire accident. So just in one day, everything was gone. Then what you guys say was Rome was also burned in one day or something like that, right? So it was, yeah. And then another thing is Red Mountain Palace, Potala. So not the present Potala is supposed to be built on that Lhasa, the Potala Palace. So before that, then when during the King Songtsen Gampo's time, it said that it was so beautiful. There were all those bridges made out of silver, gold, and all this like hanging around. So even rivals in the palace of Indra, but then it was just gone. And then nowadays, if you go to visit Potala Palace, then I think somewhere one part they said that this is the meditation cave of Songtsen Gampo. So like that, then everything is all gone. So then, so what you should do is, Kaju Goma Namgi Namdarchin, Payul Japtuchur, Mir Dangdulang, Neda Matsarote, Drop Ridadang Drop, Jong Doge Tamsum La Churne, Lopu Cholate, Chopu Tanglate, Tambu Shilate, Shifu Drokton Late, Dede. So then this is what the Kaju masters are saying that so base your mind on the Dharma. That means you have to base. That is kind of trust. Maybe place your trust kind of like base, or place your trust to the Dharma. Your mind should be trusting the Dharma, and then based on the Dharma, now doing this Dharma, then you should be having a humble life. And then based on humble life, then one humble life on the thought of death. Shilate. So then it's like, that is also base your humble life on the thought of death. Shilate. So it's kind of like this what it means is, it's not enough to be humble just one day. It's not to be humble just 1 month being so humble, then next time being not humble. So what it means is that humbleness that you have has to be carried on until you die. Not just all the way till the death. So then what should have is shipuk, then the base or the okay. So then the how you die is then on an empty, barren hollow. So where nobody is there, you then just dying. Doesn't care whether you have a you are put in ICU or not, or whether you have friends visiting or not. So it should be like that, as you are a true Dharma practitioner. Like the famous song of Miller Repa saying that, when I'm sick, so there's no nurses to attend, right? And then when I die, nobody to cry, lament. So may I be able to die in this solitary hermitage. So this is how we should be thinking, at least, 이 탁반에서 so 까담비 대사 시보디르 타르철로식 자게 냠도 닝 탁반에 삼서 thinking like that. Then again and again you have to think from the core of your heart, not just from the just talking about it. Turnby top down power pungyang mitawa yinde korlojuru jelbo malinu tabu lingshila wangjuru sergi korlojuru dan sumjutani tasumgi hayullaya wangjuru hay 왕보 제진당 현직 되어봐 하마인기 율모 도니바 양 타르사된도 농데 되바 남기 민원바신도 시와인스. So all this is a story that Jelbo Malinu is all Midatri. So that king was so powerful that he even was rivaling Indra, but later on then he had to just, lost everything. So similar like that. Shiva yin. Data rangre tongche layang jalboham lapengi jungkor yulde pembo so 토탕당 캐다 여바 탐진정 따바 대행한도 대바 직장매 나를 팀 롱셴라 던비 쩨보 남장 달로 전칸도 넬거바 두마 통네 따바 메비 마탐기 지지. Then you can see all those rich and famous, then having power, influence, and all this in one when they are in power, and this power again is impermanent, and then they land up in the prisons and like that. And then and David du tautu gyubadang nyamba member to hadang tebe chusu juba zokpi sanje ki kohanshik du dubgu nyamdu samsi. So that only unfailing achievement is the attaining Buddhahood. Other than that, whatever you accomplish, then is going to change. The only thing that is unchangeable, permanent, and it will be there with us is our attaining enlightenment. So then that one, I should be able to achieve that. So that has to be our goal. That's what, Bodhicitta is all about. So like that, then the enemies and the friends are also impermanent. Ngan phagwakata yane sonamla pepe chimda chigi bushi pangdu sung nyashashik shimshim tarsa chimoshi riba chawala do dekpar phagwe ngwenshiki singne nyade kewa dareke pha chimode mai kewa yinshin. And take ngan rangse peta soglen chane burukeba yimbar sine pasha sashin malade sun pitao pangdulang chungme choi ruba cha korwa korwe chola gemodo shesumba shin. So this is a famous quotation from Kata, what we see, that our friends and enemies are always changing. So this is what the Katayana who had that clairvoyance saw. So he eats his father's flesh. That means in the fish that was, his father born as fish, and then he was eating it, right? He beats his mother off. The mother was born as a dog, and then the dog was, maybe looking for some remainders of the fish, but he was beating that. Then he handles on his lap the enemy that he killed, that killed him, that he killed. That he killed, yeah. Then the wife is groaning at her father's bones. Then this, the dog was his wife. So I love to see what happens in Samsara's show. Samsara's show. So this is a very interesting story, to see that everything is, changing, impermanent, unreliable. And that's why I think that usually I've said a few times, Buddhist doesn't sell that well, Buddhist teachings, because that's the truth. So what you want to hear is like other religion, whenever all those, you look up and think that your ancestors or your loved ones who have died is up there in the heaven waiting for you. And then one day you'll die, then you're going to join them. So that's a very, very good, the attractive advertisement, But this is not a good advertisement, saying that, your enemy will be born as your son, and then your father is born as a fish, your mother as a dog. Who wants to hear that kind of story, right? Nobody wants to hear. You want to hear that your father is in the heaven waiting for you. Preparing the best coffee, preparing the best wine, preparing the best, and then your husband is up there waiting for you. Who knows, when you join your husband, then he may have another one. So that's why then I usually think that in Buddhist is not that attractive, Buddhist teachings. Because this is how the teaching teaches us, not like saying that anyone who died, and maybe not the bad guys, right? But most of the regular people, they are able to be born in the heaven and then waiting for us. And then maybe when we join them, there will be a big celebration. So if that's the truth, that's the reality, it is a wonderful thing, a wonderful concept, but I don't know how true it is. So anyhow, this is what Papa Katayana, the Arhat Katayana saw, and something that we have to ponder, So everything is impermanent, everything is fluctuating, changing. So it looks like then in other religion, maybe Abrahamic religion mostly. So if you're born as a one family, then you have an eternal family. I wish that we are wrong and they're right, But it is the reality is a reality. Nobody can change it. Korichola gemoto shesongba yin tsederi yang dami shawar jurba namjang chisu tunbito shenyendang nyewara del za tun shenle hawa yang duma duk pama dang punda yin yang juse dang longju chamu gi chedu kön dang jigi jigla jine jeba dang za dang nyedel yin yang telgen tenburi darjute jigi jigsaba yang tongwe janin kangyang tawa mebar tam jin jamdang ningji jong ge nyamdu yang sams. So then thinking that now in one family there are all these disputes, especially with the that entitlement was right. So then among the families, and then among like husband and wife, always conflict, divorce, and then you become previously. Then you were so much in as if like inseparable one, but then gradually become the worst enemy. So all this thinking about all this situation that we see right now, we don't have to go to heaven or hell. We see it right now with our own eyes. So seeing that, then he's saying, whoever you meet, whoever you encounter, then try to practice compassion and loving kindness. 기도기 내가 잠이다 때 제때 조르신 기바 도마도 체메 울신 동알와 제때 동알와 도마 체메라 기바양 예진 제때 장보르 주바 양 체메 제보제마 두바 제진 밀레 아구타보 나도 나마수디 기비 때모 제바 치도 캉바 딥디 동알기 맹아담바 양 삼기 미찹. So then this Jason Miller story that he all his inheritance was taken by his uncle. So what he did was then he couldn't get it back. So only way he could do was just to go and learn black magic, and then killed his uncle and all this. So that's the story here too. So there was 최치를 가와제바디 동알게 남당 도만 용양 탈 되겠라나 메바 톱데 년전게 자와 고만 남나 제준 밀라타부 인제 this is them. So when Dharma brings you hardships, then however many difficult kinds of suffering you might have to undergo, like Jetun Mila and the conqueror, that means our Buddhas of the past, in the end your happiness will be unparalleled. So this line I think is important. That's why, So when you practice Dharma, then there are all these challenges. So in olden days was more challenge. Nowadays you can just practice maybe in an air-conditioned room when it is hot outside, and then you can have the heater when it is cold. So what it means is now, generally when you do the practice of Dharma, then there can be some hardships you face, like doing prostration, and then encountering some kind of difficulties and all this. So this one you have to see as a training, as a purification, and then if you're able to, this is how all the Buddhas of the past, and Milarepa's story is now, you can find it, in English, right? So you can read that how he was kind of went through all these difficulties. I say that he was abused to enlightenment. Nowadays you cannot use that kind of a technique. And Marpa, his teacher, also said that, okay, this is the last generation. You are the last one to use this kind of tactic. You cannot use this to your students, because your students will not be able to take it. So anyhow, nowadays when you're practicing, maybe you feel that there's not that much difficulty. But let's take it like when you just sit for 2 hours, then you have back ache, and then you have headache. Then if the room is hot, cold, or if there's some irritating, Dharma friends around you, or when you're practicing, there are kids, going around. And then in the Dharma practices, retreats, there's always some kind of, conflict. Always someone is gossiping or someone is talking bad about this thing. So likes and dislikes are always there, So this, and then some may be mean at you. So these are the things he's saying, that of course these are very difficult to practice, but at least whatever kind of hardship that you have to go through, it is worthy of it. Because like Milarepa, he went through all this hardship and finally became the most well-known yogi in Tibet, accepted by all Tibetan schools, Buddhists. Nana me pa topa te se chöchir kawa jodum. And then ngen jijo se tabu yin se digba sakwe longchö gi ki poro che chang tar dungal mumme poro churte ngen niyo gi kekab tu tangbo shak dun dui charbab dene shak dun gyo gi charbab dene shak dun rinpoche charbab tar sai charbab de tamje sao do shini ngen song de kewa tabu yinbe. So this is the story. Kidu tawa meba re do gi sinti mije par chik den tse di degi longchö tamje chilmi talwashin dor chöchir kajedang ningryugi dungal tandu langne kyawa gongme sheksul nyogwashi jagyu nyamdu she tabane gomja. So this is the story may be found in the sutras, So in one time there's in a place called Apara Taka. So then first there was all this, from the sky, all these wonderful things like the food, clothing, precious jewels fell down. But finally, then there was this dust, and then everyone was killed. So basically, what it's saying is now, so whatever hardship that you have to you endure, so following the footsteps of the conquerors of the past, accepting courageously whatever hardship you have to suffer for the sake of Dharma. So someone scolding at you, someone, cursing you, someone, yeah. So all of them, then you just take it as a as a hardship that you have to go through. But generally, this hardship, a true practitioner, what it really means is then they went to solitary places, right? They were not in the cities, air-conditioned room with all these heaters, and then you can do adjustments. They were up in the mountains, just with minimal food, and then with minimal clothes, no friends, no families. Of course, a long time ago, there was no cell phone. So that's what the hardship it really means is if you're true Dharma practitioners, they go to the mountains, in the caves, and doing the practices. They are bitten by heat and cold and rain, and then they just endure all this, thinking that all these are just tribal, just a small thing compared to the big accomplishment that you can achieve by going through this kind of hardship. So that's what it means now when you practice Dharma. So there can be all these challenges. So a true Dharma practitioner, as we went through here, one of the lines was, you have to be willing to give up your Togyo Tamsum means to is like food, like a banquet, and then ge is clothes, with minimal clothes, and then the tam is your fame. So being able to accept the loss of these three. Sake of the 상보양 년바양 미다데 직된기 총네 장 카자당 담시 셰자당 페리 빠절당 장중 좀바 남장 기비딜라밥 nensabe sonam 세자는 삼로 탐지 친지로도게 자와 탐진 람도 미조 미차 람도 셴기 녜제제보 코너 jurors. So he's saying that when you lose your merit, when you exhaust your merit, then what happens is all those negative things will come to you. People will be, frowning you, and then you have to go through suffering and all this. Ngargi yuen den tenbore yo bat namjang sebatabur juni chiang mebayang dumayu ngar she mebadang samit tambadang sunma yimbayang mangbo chi longjue dang jorwato tambageba zo serwe peshin tu shengi lodeje sangbodang samyedu ziwa yang dumayu chochogi nandu seto. So in that way, then everything changes. Some were rich and famous earlier, later on becoming like nobody, and like that, all can change. There's nothing which is which will be always stable. There's nothing which is always continuously present, permanent like that. So then one thing is here, Togden Gebe, Lobnir, Shenlo Gebe, Soljo, Tenba Gebe, Sapin, Serwashin. So this is like he's saying, in all age, sages become pupils. He's saying that previously they were just meditating, and afterwards they thought, oh, this meditation is no good, now I have to go and study something. So that's what it means. And then renunciates MS wealth. So in the beginning they were like all the renunciate, and later on the MS wealth. And then preceptors becoming the head of families is like then, disrobing and then becoming head of family. So like that, jikden gi jasha tam ji le dang wei jia dang wa zhang ce me juze gi so juze so jo ren ba dang ce de xian le qu shi je bi lo ben yang ce me ngan ba dang gu jia je ba dang ce de du zin gi ken bo yang ce me tu gu mang bi pa je ba so yue jing ce de di bi le kona je ba yang ce me dang bi qu kona du jing du ba to ba ham 민장 치카를 람나신바 개와 공펠도 줄바 라소바 두마요바 임베 다다 상인기 나와 끼징말라 딱바는 땜바 강양 매장랑라 니중당 조시 세수께 땅난기 최시 두로지 신 직된비 상보를 띠데 연다다 로마 시합네 땡자나 랑기 주 10도 미다버 나니 대단 대다고 이노 냠도 나젤기 주 베제 나와 우르랑 니 루르랑이 강제장 초 냠베 로게와니 뒤기 원숨들과 인싱. So this is what the Lamas is saying, that when you're praised, when you're respected, then you think that now you're so, inflated that you think that you can do everything and you're above the law, Usually you say above karma, above law, so like that so can happen. Is this, and so so this is nothing, but it isn't the deception. It's saying that it's the deception from the, Morris. Okay, Dugiliba yin, so Dugiliba yin, she Dalsin Yulpu, Damegi, Shake, Pugby, Samatogi, Bardu, Sangin, Git Nawa Taba, maybe, Tudaldo, Chua Mitaba Gom. So until you become Arahat, until you become, the realized emptiness, then always there will be the fluctuation of, good and bad. So until that, then we have to, practice Dharma until you have generated this wisdom mind. Yes. Taltu mensa sins. Always then be humble. Here, analyze your own fault and always take the lowest place. Cultivate dissatisfaction with samsara and desire for liberation. Train yourself to become a peaceful, disciplined, and concentrated, and constantly develop the sense of poignant, and deep sadness at the thought of transitoriness of all compounded things and suffering of samsara like Milarepa. So this is the thing. Basically then, as a Buddhist, as a practitioner, always be humble and then having that sense of renunciation. So it is very, very important, is saying. Samsara, like Jetun Milarepa, and Je Mile, mi met lumpi tafuna choche dewa sangdume lama tusum sanjela yidungela delwa me chesum batar nyamsulang. So always like in the rocky cave, in the deserted land, my sorrow is reclining, right? So basically then having that sense of weariness all the time, that is the sadness of thinking about the flood of samsara, having that sense of renunciation, and constantly I yearn for you, my Father, Buddha of the 3 times, and then your teacher, always remembering your teacher all the time, seeing him as the representation or the manifestation of the Buddhas of all time. So this is the key practice of Vajrayana, is the Guru Yoga. So if you practice in this way, Talgit namdo di indiang mitagwa yimbe chijur tol mede ngar nyewa dar na langwi mishik chisu chogur shune druba jebe ke long tarwa shejawa te lungsem la rawa topne namkar purnita na ninjik torzen sawala puren mangbo dube ngala ditawe ma nde yena tawanam tsarche nu nyambe namdo nyamba shik lamdu malangwe chi yuldu babne ma wenjeba shik chunga yin. So this is a story about a monk. So when he saw many pigeons coming to, maybe eat his leftover food, then he just had the one namto lamdu malang pe. So this one is very important. I think there's a footnote about that. What's that? He failed to take this wrong thought on the path. So then you can read that footnote. Was that 40, right? 40 or 46. So anyhow, 45 minutes. So anyhow, what it means is now, this is very, very important, I think. Namdo lamdo malang or namdo lamdo lang. So as a practitioner, then we can have many thoughts coming up, Sometimes when you see someone, then jealousy come up. Sometimes when you see something nice, then attachment comes up. Then sometimes you think you're doing good, and then the pride comes up. Then sometimes then So during whatever kind of thought arises, especially whether the negative thought first. So when negative thought arises, then you have to be more careful. Oh, now jealousy is in my mind, occupying. I have to be careful, said in this, Lojong trainings. So if the enemy become more kind of stronger, so I will also become more stronger like him. If the enemy is kind of relaxed, I will relax. If the enemy is the same thing in your warfare also, right? When the enemy is trying to develop all this, state-of-art weapons, then you try to dismantle them, and then you try to keep yourself always, have an upper hand. With the best of the weapons, best of the army. So similar like that, when you see these enemies coming, the jealousy, hatred, anger, distractions. So that time, then it is saying, it is the time to use Dharma. So this monk, Gelong Parba, so he couldn't take this on path, So what it means is that as a practitioner, until you become a bodhisattva of the first bhumi, then you can have all these thoughts, jealousy, hatred, all this is very obvious to us. More you practice, the more thoughts you will be aware of it. That's very, very, you can say that. So what I usually say about all these thoughts is, sometimes when you are meditating, then people come and complain that in my meditation, how come I have lots of thoughts? Previously, I thought I was a good meditator, but now I have all these thoughts. How come? So to them, of course, I also, we can feel that is easier. The more you, so to that, what I say is now, previously when you thought that you didn't have that much of thoughts, when you are meditating or practicing, as a beginner, you cannot go backward, right? So previously, I usually say that, for example, you have what you call that let's say movement sensor, So when your movement sensor was cheap, let's put it that way. So when the movement sensor was cheap, so what happens is now only when an elephant comes, then it will bleep, oh, there's an intruder. But other than that, then when the dogs come or smaller things come, then you don't bleep because you have a very cheap sensor, the movement sensor or the whatever. Now, then as you upgrade your sensitivity, like you buy the best movement sensor, so until this sensor is sharp, is it sharp? So sharp that even when an ant moves in your room, then it will bleep, So like that in the very beginning, so all those ants, dogs, cats, you couldn't sense them because your senses were so weak. But later on, when you keep on meditating, then your elephant, first you could sense only the elephant. Then you can sense the human being. Then you can sense the dogs, cats, and then finally to even the ants, So all this can happen. So more you practice, and definitely you will be able to be aware of your own emotions arising in you. So that time, then as said here, then you must be able to apply the Dharma in that time. So if you fail to apply the Dharma during that time, then what happens is, as this monk later on went to the village and became the generals, like that you can be thinking that, being powerful with all this army around you and being respected, then thinking in that way, then you looked for that, and this is how you can fall as a practitioner. Deshindu, teldu, lamadan kewi, kenle, chugit nawatam topjang, soso kewi dushela, takwa mebe rango, nima chugi tende, tsedang drupa nyambashik jegu, nyamdu samo, so then saying that now when we meet the Dharma and then be able to practice, so at least he's saying that you must and then here he says, free yourself with, but bearing in mind that a short time anyone's sentiment lasts, anyone's sentiments will just last for a short time. And then we may be thinking, then how come then my sentiment is lasting for years and months, and all this is because we are not letting go of it. You are replaying that again and again, If you replay your sentiments again and again, then definitely, it will last forever. But in reality, it's all gone. You're just playing with all those images and reflections. So, free yourself with the Dharma while you can. So this is a good advice, right? Free yourself with Dharma while you can. While you can do that. Resolve to practice as long as you live. This is very, very important. Resolve to practice as long as you live. Not like, you're practicing one day intensively, next day relax, not like that. So you should have this firm resolution that until, Tsedam Drupanyamba. So like basically he's saying that your life and your practice has to be, same until your last breath. Then you shouldn't give up practicing Dharma. So there are many people who are giving up, practicing Dharma, just because thinking that it doesn't work for you. So even though in the higher teachings it says that you can get enlightened in 3 months or 6 months or 3 years or short period of time, but if you do not practice it properly, it will not. So we have many cases that some practices Dharma for some time and totally give up, In my case also, like I've been here now 20 plus years, so I have some Dharma friends who left, some Dharma friends still hanging out with us. So it's something that, then thinking that you want to practice Dharma until, my last breath. So you have to make that resolution. If you have that resolution, then, the little bit of fluctuations that you have in your daily life, it will not bother you. So, Sedan Drupanyam Junyam Sams, Tetar Pedin Dumala Samchang. So then, taking all these examples, Yaki Sipi Zemone, Magi Nyalwi Neri Yenchet, Tagwadang, Temba Chungze Chang Meba, Pojur Peldip Yirangshindu, Ichebar Jao. So finally, we were talking about all these things. Everything is impermanent, always changing, always, there's nothing not permanent, consistent. So all will change. Even our friends, families, all changes. Even by not being able to use one word correctly, then, we become enemy. And so, all those, let's say you use 100 words, right? So all the 99 words were so nice, so polite, so good, but then it was all messed up by one word that you used, and then we forget all these 99 words, and then just that one word we stick to it, and then it becomes more and more troublesome. So like that is saying that whatever you experience in this life, high, low, good, bad, and everything is subject to change. Everything waxes and wanes. Then the uncertainty of the circumstances of death. So then, then the sixth one is chicken ngemela samte midapor kombani rangre jambul lingbi minam keba zamni chiur ngejang chiluk chicken chiwi du duce mashishing namchi dang dirchi dang ditarchi dang gangi chiwa ni sulayang ngeba mede. So once you are born here, you don't know how you will die, when you will die, where you will die. Nobody knows that, right? Jikden dir chowi kenni nyungshin chiwi kenni mangwar loben arya dewe chiwi kenni shindu mang chowi kenni shindu nyung deyang chiwi kendu jururu shesung batar. So this may be from the 400 verses of the Abhidharma Madhyamaka, most likely. So what Arya Deva said is generally at that time, that was like maybe the 6th century. So in that time too, the conditions to live was limited, condition to die was in abundance. But in this world, it's definitely happened now, maybe 100,000 times even more, like, so thinking that way, then chiwi kende juru shesung batar medang chudang dudang yangsa dang migyo dang jenzin la soba chiwi kende shindu mangshin chowi kende nyungze zamle me chowi kendu lombi sedang gyo la soba namjang chiwi kende jurwa yode du jengi se zeba ham minjang chaldu lula penbar lomne se zeba yang Zeba yang jurdu gams mitubar jurni chiwi ken jeba mangshin. So then we have all this food which we think is healthy, but later on find out that it's not healthy, So like that, even though you took it so that you can live long. So there are many cases that you took this supplement, that supplement, right? And finally they found out that it was, helping one part of our body but destroying the other one. So like that, then even the food and the medicine that you took can also become a cause to death. Kepardo dadagi digabna kyo pelcher shay sel seba chewe shatrage se bame do jeba layang jeba la ten mardun nam shatengi ne du majur meba tabudang. So then like here the Patrumbache was one of the teachers or advocating the on vegetarianism. So here also he applies the saying that if eating meat can cause the tumor, and also when you eat meat, then not only just you want to eat it, there are some spirits who are waiting to eat it, and then when they don't get their share, maybe they get mad and then they want to eat you too. So like that. Anyhow, Jurbat Nabuna, Shenyang, Sedang, Chelam, and Ngembe. Tendang beken chune kede chiwi kenjeba ne tangi miche 대신 또 롱제도 년다 라서 버든도 nyerwe parolgi yungoro chinbam 젠젠 마rumbi dung doa chula bangmedo kelwa laso chiwi ken do marjurwa yang tangi miche. So then just to become famous or just to make your livelihood, people go for war and die. Or then trophy hunting, right? That's one very, just recently I saw that some people went for trophy hunting. Instead of being the hunter, they got hunted and killed, right? So like that is saying. And then some just go for surfing and all this, and still, they went to enjoy, but then they died. So there are many cases like that. You go for vacation and then finally you vanish, right? Shenyang chicken number not so be chidi ngeba meba chiwa yinde kaji maingel de chiwa ye kaji kematal de chiwa ye kaji go zamne chiwa ye kaji darla babne chiwa ye kaji geshin komne chiwa ye kaji mendang sunwa jelo meba chiwa ye kaji lonne den la jerne shimik sun la da rigong pagi yo de chiwa ye kaji dong tu tabu se sa tro tam she tro lega je tro la shiwa duma ye kaji rangi rang so ba ya yo ba yin de tar chi wi ken dang ma wa dang mang wi ina cho wi ken niba long niba chungwa long se ge ma me tar neba yimbe du da da tsam gi chiwa loburdu lefte. So then is saying that the conditions to live is limited, condition to die is in abundance. So then giving this traditional example, they're saying surrounded by so many causes of death, your life has a little chance of enduring as a candle flame in the wind. So candle flame in the wind can be blown away any time, right? So similar like that, then you have very, very slim chance to live. So when we are living, still alive, still healthy, then you should use that, is saying, to practice Dharma. Yimbe na du dada tsam chiwa lubu de kenle sangi nima tsam goam kala rajo kepe duro shikdu ke shikdu se kesa mebe ngeba yang mebe namchi chamet karke ngeme la ichi tobar jao je. So he's saying that you, first of all, you don't know when you will be dying. Then after death, you don't know where you will be born. So thinking in that way, then contemplating on impermanence. And then this seventh one, so this one is, I think, even more important. It summarizes all this fear. Up to now, there's all this different kind of fear that you are being instead, everything is impermanent, everything is uncertain. And then people think that it is a negative way of living your life, right? So be positive. People say that. Then I don't know what that really means, be positive, and these are all negative. So if you, basically, as we went through all these different conditions and different teachings, so that's the truth, that's the reality. So not thinking of death, if that what it means by living positively, I don't think there's a positive living, There's a fake living, You know that all these are, possible, but you just try to deny that. So it's a denial, not like a positivity. So thinking about all this is positive living, because it is the fact, it is the reality. You never know when you're going to die, where you are going to die, after you die, where you will be born. Nobody can assure you all this and that. So that's the reality. So living positive, thinking positive in Buddhist terminology is if your mind is aligned with the truth, then that's thinking positively, living positively. So if your mind is not aligned with the truth, and then you just go on believing in this fake news, believing in this sugar coating, believing that when you die, then your family is waiting up there, with, I guess they don't, flowers, or with, they are brewing you the best of the wine, and then they're just waiting for you. And, so very tempting concept, right? But I don't know how true it is. So anyhow, so that's then the seventh is saying Dunba Dagola someday Midaba Gomba knees Duna Nega Tam Jedu Chiwa Conor Gomshin Dodo Nelsum Tam Jella Dikden Digi Jolam Gi Tamayino She Ngalto Yang Yila Yang Dunger Gom. So whenever, whatever you do, then always saying, maybe this is my last dinner, this is my last teaching, this is my last thing. So always thinking that, keeping in our mind, then you have to, not only, it's saying here, the main two things, right? Think and say it too. So saying it somehow keeps an imprint in your brain, creating a more kind of imprint than just thinking. So both, you're thinking about it and saying it. So I think I said last time too. So whenever like Kenshin leaves and say goodbye, and then wishing him that we'll meet again. So our Kenshin Guru always say, if you are alive, of course we can meet next time. So like that. So always remembering impermanence all the time. Shengauto yang je yila de dom ne shendu tona yang der chiam ne dir elo chame do nyambadang. So that when you go to other places, maybe that's my that's my death bed is waiting there. That's where I'm going to die and I'll never return. So like that. Kang du du chang dir chiam nyambadang chenmo nyel wi du chang donup nyelsa dir chiam sangin dangwing eba medo nyambadang nam namo lang wi du chang diringi nin kang dir chiam donup nyelwing eba medo nyamdu chiwa bashik ning thakwa ni dung dung gom. So that is also not just thinking, so you are from a heartfelt thinking. So that's what you have to saying is always remembering death. Always remembering death is very, very important. So dung samje, dung samje. Sams nan kadambe kewe shene nam tsenmo zimbe tse number metanju eon mishe nyamdu me bawa solshe yang kabub ni joba so tella chiwi tudun pashi zeba shindu nyamsu lang. So that time there was no match, so they had to, even when I was growing up in my village, so when you cook, then after that you have to use this ash to bury the ember. So then make sure that you put another fire wood there, and then you just cover it with hot ash and other ember. So tomorrow morning, then when you wake up, then they will, if there's a small ember, then you use charcoal and then this to light up when there was no match. Not like in these days you have this 24/7 gas always there, right? Propane. So anyhow, like that, like all this is what Kadamba Geshes did. Chiwazam gombe jang miyong de chikar. So now this is very important. So, however, just to meditate on death will not suffice. This is very, very important, Like as I said earlier in one of my teachings, so when you're driving, if there is a danger, so if the road is curvy, so you have to drive at a slower speed. Or when the road is slippery, you have to put a sign that the road is slippery. Or when all these danger signs are put there, so you be cautious to drive so that you will not fall in that, the trap. So similar like that. So all these teachings on the death and uncertain impermanence, all were taught, of course, after you have that fear. So some says it's a fear tactic. So you can say that it is a fear, but just thinking of death alone is not sufficient. That's just seeing the reality. It's almost like going to a doctor's office and see whether you are, checking yourself and see whether you have any sickness or not. Then when the doctor says that you're sick, then, of course, then you have this fear. So after having that fear, then you ask your doctor, what's the solution? How can I heal myself? What is the, treatment that I should go through so that I can heal myself? So similar like that here, so this is very, very important. Just thinking of death doesn't help. What you should do is now miyongde chikarar penba dambi chokona yimbe duitautu temba dan sheshin madelwi ngangne korwi chaja tamje mita nimbo mebar shene yangda bechola gulgute. So this is important. So the only thing of any use at the moment of death is dharma. So you also need to encourage yourself to practice in an authentic way, never slipping into the forgetfulness or the loss of vigilance, remembering always that the activities of samsara and the transient and without the slightest meaning. So that's what it means. Now, this whole samsara is meaningless. There's no essence. So, only thing that can help us to go over this is, the dharma. So then you have to always think about practicing dharma. So so thinking impermanence, which we have been discussing up to now, is to see that we have a problem. And once you see that there is a problem, then you're looking to how you can fix that. So first looking at the problem and you freak out, then you think that, oh, this is useless. And then if you freak out, then you never solve your problem. So what you should do is first know the problem, and after knowing the problem, then you have to solve that. This looks like what all experts does, right? Whenever something goes wrong, then they have to first look for the problem, and then instead of panicking, then you have to look for the solution. So impermanence and uncertainty of death is the problem that we have. Now the solution to that is the Dharma. So that's what you should be thinking. So, chola kulgo des chir lusem gi tsokwa mitape yarbola tautu mazin dona lam mitape kom dibe nyashin gang zam ta shin dola sem tul me gomba chuchosu dororoja. So even walking towards the Dharma, and duna ne mitabe taupe shingam yilajas. Even when you are sitting, then always thinking about. So this part is very, very important. The seventh awareness of impermanence is this one. If you don't have time, then what I would recommend is you others, then you just read it a little bit. But this part is very, very important. This part is saying why we have to meditate on impermanent. And then after meditating on impermanent, knowing that everything is impermanent, then how to apply that, So then the food you should be eating is also the samadhi food. So drink God, enjoy impermanence. So feed on the profound concentration. So here you say the profound concentration. So this is again meditation. So if you are really able to meditate, then it's said that you don't need that much of food, water, because somebody is saying that when you are meditating, your metabolism is also reduced. So when your metabolism is reduced, then you don't need that much of food and water, right? So what it means here is now to keep your mind healthy is important. And how you can keep your mind healthy is by meditation. So if you're able to keep your mind healthy, then your body would follow that, be healthy. If your mind is not healthy, even if your body is healthy, then it will make your body sick. So that's one way of understanding. And then other way of understanding is this, when you're really able, through your meditation, when you're really able to tap in to your, the power of your mind, then that becomes the nourishment. That's how Mahasiddhas, they live in the mountains, Even nowadays you can see, I don't know whether it is AI created or real ones in the Himalayas. You have yogis, just living in the cold, without food, without water, just living like that. So why they're able to do that is they're able to tap in or harness the power of their mind through meditation. So that's why one thing is to sustain yourself. It's not necessary that you have to go to the grocery stores all the time, especially when nowadays the prices have gone up, right? So better meditate so you'll eat less. Dukbitne midakbe dakbe shingam imbar samje. Another thing is then when you are sleeping, then also sleep is impermanence. So transform that into what's that, clear light. Okay, so this all the talking about the dream yoga and clear light. So as of now, even though we are not able to transform that into clear light, so when you go to sleep, then what is said is the last moment of your the conscious mind just before you fall asleep is very, very important. So what we need to do is thinking about your Lama, meditational deity, or emptiness, or in this case just impermanence, and go to sleep, So that will make your whole sleep, whether you're sleeping for 8 hours, 7, 6, whatever hours you're sleeping. So that's very, very important. And then to really, again, advanced practice, there's a whole teaching on the dream yoga. It looks like first you have to recognize the dream as a dream, and then transform that dream, changing that the dream, and then finally seeing that dream is also clear light. So there's a whole teaching about this dream yoga. So anyhow, vessel the jans jorna nor mitaupe pakbe nor dun ten. So then, if you have wealth, then the best wealth is the 7 wealth of the noble ones. That's here saying faith, discipline, learning, generosity, consciousness, modesty, and wisdom. So these are the wealth, the true wealth. Northern 10. Nyen dang side mitaupe wenbar ngejung la kul. Chezen dang nyen dang mitaupe taudu mensa zin mrawi tsik mitaupe deju dang kadun la kur deba dang ngejung mitaupe tamja tembo la zun. So it's saying that our devotion and the sense of renunciation is also impermanent. So that's very, very obvious. Today you'll feel so much devoted, next day so and so, then the next day devotion is totally gone. So what you should do is then never give in and always have that strong commitment. So commitment be unshakable like that. Then Dushedam Namto Mitaupe Mishi Sambola Lap. So all our thoughts is impermanent, so you should have a very solid ground. Nyam nang tokwa mitaupe chuni sesa la chul. Dei disu kechi bartha gel se chido gi tengse ni chime gi tsensa sin. So why we are meditating on impermanence? So this part is the very, very important. So after thinking about this impermanent again and again, then the link here is saying, at that time the link between death and rebirth falls away and you reach such confidence that you are completely ready for death. That means now you have practiced so good, then you have this certainty that now death will not affect you. Especially then the great yogis, they are waiting to die. So that's why I think one of the reasons is if you look at the biographies of all these great masters, they didn't live long, Maybe only Toto Tangtong Gempo have lived 108 years. Maybe he's the longest, had the longest life in Tibetan Mahasiddhas. So then this death, so they are not afraid of death. Again, afraid of death is not like having a nihilistic view that I'm not afraid of death. Knowing that now you have this stable foundation of meditation, you have realized the emptiness, death is an illusion, birth is an illusion, there's in the state of Buddha nature, there's no birth and no death. I think in that not for happiness, what Jabje Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche says is, the only thing that is reliable that we have all not changing is our Buddha nature, So that kind of, when you are able to experience the Buddha nature, then you go beyond birth and death. That's what that's our, and how you can go beyond birth and death is first accepting the birth and death and then looking for a solution where you can go beyond it or not. Chimege tsensa sin jagebo nampang choba da chiong nyambe yimu de dune gommigo de. So then from that onwards, then you don't have to do this meditation on uncertainty of death. So this, as Milarepa sang, so this word, this stanza is very, very important in understanding and why we were meditating on this uncertainty of death. Not just to depress yourself, not just to think that, oh, you are not going to live any long, you're going to die. So nobody wants to hear that, right? But that's the truth, that's the reality. Whether you like it or not doesn't matter. So here, then the purpose of meditating on impermanence, that as Milarepa puts, is very, very important. You read this again and again. So what he says is, "Nga chiwe jigne rilachin, namchi chame gomgomne chime nyungme zensasin, ta chiwe jigba borde tal." So this is very, very important. Fearing death, I went to the mountains. Because if you're in the mountains, you'll not die. Not like that. So in the mountains, that means to meditate. Then over and over again, I meditated on death's unpredictable coming. So he was meditating that death is unpredictable. So that's why then he was able to practice more. He didn't care whether he had 3 meals a day. He didn't care whether he had, clothes on him. He didn't care whether he's feeling cold or hot. He didn't care all this, like what people talk about him. So then what he was doing was thinking about this unpredictable coming of the death. Then he practiced. So you become a strong practitioner. More you think about, as here Patrul Rinpoche says, more you think about uncertainty of death, a better practitioner you'll become, basically. Why then? I think Patrul Rinpoche also says in other texts, and here too, I think, why all Dharma practitioners fail is because we are not able to contemplate on uncertainty of death. So if we are able to contemplate and have some kind of understanding, implication, application to our practices, then definitely, as said by Milarepa, then he was also always thinking about that unpredictable nature of the death. Then finally, after that, then he took this strong hold of the deathless, unchanging nature. That's the Buddha nature. So he was able to find the Buddha nature and remain in the Buddha nature because he was thinking of this, relative to birth and death. So he attained that deathless state. Now I have lost and gone beyond all fear of dying. So this line, very, very, very important. Otherwise we may be thinking that just thinking about uncertainty of death and all this, we are depressing ourselves, You're put into a depression then you are in this chaos, all this, but that's not the case. So as said here, earlier, by thinking about impermanence, you are giving preference, priority to Dharma. And then when you give priority to Dharma, keep on practicing, then you are able to transcend the birth and death and be in this, this fortification, stronghold or citadel of the deathless state. So that's the whole purpose of, in practicing on impermanence, so that you can go beyond permanence and impermanence. Similar like that, when we will be meditating on karma, so that you can go beyond karma and all these things. So this quotation from Mila, Mila is very, very important. Shedang, nyame dabu rinpoche shel ne chang, dangbo kechi jigbe deba. So this is giving an example. Shawa tundong ne deba tabu shiko, bardu shiyam mijeba, shingbe sunam rinpa tabu shiko. So the second one is what it's saying is you should you should have nothing to regret even if you die, like the farmer who has carefully worked his field. So that as a farmer, most of you are not farmers, so you don't know what it means. I was a farmer a long time ago, or just saw people farming, let's say that, not really. So what it means is now when the farmers, not like nowadays, so you have irrigation system, you have this, if they are bug, you can spray all those, poisons and whatever. So long, or you don't know whether you have timely rain or not. So what the farmers did was anticipating that his crop will be, there won't be any obstacles and he will have a bountiful harvest. Just keeping in that mind, and then they just work on it. Not like thinking, oh, I'm not going to work, because you never know that you'll get rain or not. Or they will be, in Tibet, one of the main issue in the Himalayan region, especially the higher mountains, is the frostbite. So when you have these beautiful flowers coming, and then one day the whole temperature goes below zero, and then all the flowers are gone, then you have nothing, So like that. So even though knowing that all these circumstances, unfavorable circumstances may be there, but still the farmers do their job. So like that, So in the middle you should have nothing to regret, even if you die, because you have done your job, and if you die, that's it, right? And if you get a good harvest, you're lucky. If you don't get that good harvest, then you have done your job. Not you didn't wait for luck, Yeah, you're not waiting until you hit the jackpot. Then in the end, Tama Dewa Jawa Lapchin Sinbi Kebutabashi Gös. So that's one. And then Dangbo, again, Dangbo Lomai do Sheba Kebu Nela, Dapu Patabushi Gö, Pardo Yengmi do Gomba, Buchipu Shiwi Matabushi Gö. So I like this second example. In the middle, you should be meditating on death without thinking of anything else, like a mother whose only child has died. So in your mind, in that mother's mind, there's nothing but her child's death. So similar like that. So in our mind too, so there should be nothing but the Dharma. So that's what. And then Tamar Jardameba Sheba. So then the third one is now when all your livestock is stolen, then you have nothing to hurt, right? So similar like that. So here, so if you just meditate on impermanence, Buddha also said that that's the best offering that you can give to the Buddhas. Sanje Tamje, Medaba Mandogom, Sanje Tamje, Ujima ino, Medaba Mandogom, Sanje Tamje, Lundemba ino, Medaba Mandogom, Sanje Tamje, Jingilava ino, Pena, Jenam Ginani, Lambochi, Cho ino, De Shindu, Namba Sanje be Kombi, Dushi Tamje Ginani, Medaba Komba de, Dushi Kona ino, She Sumbadam. So that's why, I usually she sumbatam then dulwa lungle jang ngai khor bomba sambota botam gelo shari buta mongel gi butam ta jala tungchu yendang jeba jinba we duje mitaba kijing ma ji demba choyi no she songs. So thinking about impermanence is the best, as said here. And I think I said few times. So as the antidote to our emotions in the relative truth, then that antidote is to think about impermanence. In the ultimate truth is to think about emptiness, like an illusion, empty. So that emptiness becomes an abstract. Right? First you have to know what is emptiness, and then you say it's empty but not empty, and then it gets complicated. Then you have to learn that through like Nagarjuna's triangle logic. You're using this logic to, and then you have to first then to know that you have to learn the logic and how to argue and all this so complex, way to have even intellectual understanding of emptiness is challenging, I usually say that now, easiest way to understand emptiness is everyone understands that the past is gone, the future is yet to come, and you have this present moment. You're happy with the present moment for some time. Then you have to give a next interrogation. Then how can the present be there when its counterpart, the reference point of the past and future is gone? So when there's no past, no future, the present has no foothold to remain. So you lost the present. So that's, I usually say, easiest way to understand emptiness without going through all those logical understanding, without going through all those Nagarjuna's texts, the root madhya, it kills time. Just think like that is good enough. And then about impermanence is something which is handy. Everybody can understand impermanence. Is practical, is easy to understand. Whatever we learned up to now, so it all makes sense. It's not abstract. It's not something you really have to think. It's something very easy to understand, easy to experience, but we just neglect that. That's the only issue. We just neglect that. Even the death. So whenever you see a gray hair coming on you, so that's saying that, the death is sending you all those signals. Whenever you see some extra wrinkles on you, that means it's saying, I'm coming, So like that, this impermanence is so it's easy to understand. So if we are able to practice it, then as I said, that's the best offering, that's the best practice, that's what you need to do. And it doesn't cost anything to practice on this impermanence, And deshin to give shenyan puto we genin and chigi chujig to jawala gal chewa gal che sheshupe puto we shen chujig to jawa mitaba gomba de gal che. So then there was one guy who was asking, I don't want to practice many things, So then, if I just want to practice one Dharma, what's that? Then he said, that's very simple, impermanence. So, Shiva Mitagwa di komna, Dambo chola jupi juje, Pardu, Kejor la kulvi kenje, Tama, see this one, the Tama, so if you think about impermanence, it will make you practice Dharma and also finally come to that, understanding of make you take up Dharma in the beginning, in the middle, to conduce to positive practice. In the end, it helps you realize sameness of all phenomena, but ultimately everything is empty in nature. So like that. Sorry, I got. So that's the. Sometimes it's your bardo jurukenje. Yang midabade gomna dambo tsedi deta chebi juje bardo korwat tada la shemba lobi kenje tama nyaneli debi lamdo jubi droje yang midabade gomna dambo deba kebi juje bardo tundu chebi kenje tamar sherab kebi droje yang midabade gom. So people are asking always, people when we are saying, oh, have devotion many times, and then even I had many questions, many people asking, oh, I don't have enough devotion, so what should I do? Then it said here, okay, practice on impermanence. If you don't have enough bodhicitta, what should you do? Impermanence. So you have one medicine for all, That's in the so that's what it's saying, that if you just meditate on impermanence, then it will everything will fall on your path. Sorry, I was trying to make it bigger and now I'm totally lost. So that was also impermanence, right? Kyegi nimitawa gomsi. Detar mitawa jun jikten semjengi denjeba so then de tengdu kyegi jamdang ningje mangdu gomdang de jula kena semjengi denjeba la kaju mebaji hongi de tengdu kyegi chötamji nelu tongwani mangdu gomdang de julin keba na chulwa chungwa la kawa kaju mebaji hongi shesong detar mitaba jula kene jikden tsidi jasha tamjen la shenpa tingni lokwa chungne jen la zozen jimba tabu shi honwa inde jen. First minute. So, and afterwards, what it says is now, if you keep on meditating like that on impermanence, and then afterwards, even if you're given something nice to you, then it will be like when you already, some having that feeling of nausea, and if you're given more food, then you feel more like throwing out, so it will become like that. 인데 제밀래 네 직된 되게 톤보 당점보 주거든 Jela Michelne, so that's from 제비뉴고 from Islam ngai jikten di thambo dang tsambo chubo chorbo chitabushi thongya dela yimen michorwar damba kongmit namtar tawati mitaba chungsere julagebe ten yin ngala tile hakbe tamma kanyang tende me che yangyang songje. Okay. Oh, maybe I left out some. Yeah. And then maybe, yeah, it looks like I left some. That's why I was. Detar mita vidi chu mama imba chi chu la ma ke na chu shu lo dang je lo chi tam je jang thar chu de gi jur ju wa in des. So this one I think so the most important part I somehow left almost skipped it. So this what Padamba says. So maybe we have different pages, right? Page numbers are different. Mine is 57 in English translation, maybe different page number, right? So anyhow, what Padamba says is, at first be very convinced of impermanence, make you take up Dharma. In the middle is whips up your diligence, and in the end it brings you to the radiant Dharmakaya. So that's the whole purpose. And again, here one important thing is, unless you feel this sincere conviction in the principle of impermanence, any teaching you might think, you might receive, you put into practice, just make you more and more impervious to the Dharma. So that's how it is translated. So what it means is chodet. So this is I think in the footnote even says Dharma beer, which I don't think is, anyhow, literal translation would be like that. So chodet means now one which we should be careful, especially people like me maybe becoming this chodet. What it really means is now immune to Dharma. So first you think about impermanent, then you feel some kind of scariness, right? If you guys are listening to me for the first time, then maybe, it's so scary, impermanent. Second time you think it's like that. Third time you think, it's like that. And fourth time, then you don't give a damn to impermanence. No? So that's chodet. It's like, meaning translation would be, you're immune to Dharma. So however, the strong the Dharma is, so that's called chodet. And then how you become this chodet, immune to Dharma, for now let's put it as immune to Dharma is, so when you're deep practicing Dharma, is almost another example that is used is like a hide. Maybe nowadays people don't know, So this hide, the leather, when you first want to make it soft, you have to use some oil or butter, But if you keep that hide with the butter for many long time, the butter goes in and it becomes hard, and then you cannot use butter to make it soft. So similar like that, you are in the, this is what we observe many times elsewhere, even in our traditional monastery or in retreat centers. So first year you're so good, and then second year maybe a little bit, as our Kensins used to say when we were studying, and third year you become so proud, fourth year, and afterwards whatever is being taught to you, you don't care, like hearing about impermanence or hearing about hell realm. So first thing you are a little bit afraid. Second thing you don't care, and afterwards and then you become like careless. So that's what it means by chö death. So immune to dharma. So that's the jute tambishan the big chöten jebal the shi nyamba ni jigjang minangwe lu ni jigjang ma lupa ni jigjang ma tong lar sergyo chöni nor sabala katse di chida shinje la se nor jewa ein nor sangzang tamje cha jelu la ngalwa la kodun jelo ein jem Bögi Choba Diso Tong Göre haha, so he's laughing. So similar like that. We are thinking of practicing Dharma, so it says in Tibet, maybe here or elsewhere. So what you do is basically is saying, without thinking about uncertainty of death, however you are trying to practice, you may be practicing, or then it just looks like you are just practicing it so that you can become famous or you can gain some wealth and all this. So if you look at this, and then it's saying that and the Padamba Sangha is just laughing at it. It looks like you're doing this Dharma just for food and money. Then you're doing your practitioners. So haha, to see these Tibetan practitioners make me laugh. So that's what, a very important point, Tepa suche ngajelche gomba su sang senor so wenba su den duzimang rangyul kangpang ngoza me dezo chula deba yin dezo digba gawa yin parol bo shiwa tongya rang chiwa mishebe lelen dangbo tela tukje song. So all these wrongs. So many people asking why Dharma is not working for me. So all of them comes to one point that we are not practicing impermanence. Okay, so maybe we'll finish this. So let's do some overtime job. Okay, maybe some of you maybe have to go. Anyhow, I'll just read through it. This is something kind of easy to understand, but then maybe put to practice is. So then afterwards, then how can you think that you have reached that, the standard or the culmination of practicing this impermanence is geshe khara gomchung tabushik gaba yinde kong zongi joma khara gi tidung do duba jebal jomba tafu gi gona Tserbon shik duba las naza tobe tangbo je nyambala jesu hajang nga trapu gi nangdir chiwa le lar elo mishe dewe kejong rang jena keche gongne jeba majung gor chir gor chen kapchang de shindu jumala nga gone nangdu edo mishe konde tetar lo mangbor du shuk lama tuba top de songyang serfung joba majunga yinje. So this is the famous story. What's his name is Geshe Khara Gomchung. So now you have an excuse not to do, cut your lawn. thinking that, oh, if I cut my lawn or clean your room, so those lazy people has this excuse, I'm not going to clean my room because if I clean, then you never know I'm going to leave next minute or not, so you can keep your room untidy, unclean, and just be messy, a good excuse. I'm just joking. It's not so like that. He didn't cut this, the thorn bush, and then he got enlightened just by thinking, if I cut this, maybe it will. He will lose 10, 15 minutes or 5 minutes of his life. So then he just kept it, and so both he got enlightened, and then the thorn bush also survived. 대신 르슨 징멜링바 양스 던 시리 체스 추심기 생구식도 여발라 템게 메베 전주 신도 가오로 여바디르 템게식이 기나슈베 상페 dir enel mishe di dawe kale chi je sumba inde du ta to mi ta ba sum khona jemba yin sum dena rangre nam jang de dawe re jula nge par ma ki gi bardu jorwa sem ge ngui thap na so ge lo chue de mi ta ba shama shi jula ma ki bardu gom jugmowi jetepe supan tebar jawadang jete nyamsu langne damba gommi jeshul nyobashik jine jangbe goba ino. So then following the past teachers, this is what you should be doing. Mida ngondu jujang takbarsin kawi tongor lepjang shenbar lom dagdang dagda lokto semjenam mida jula kevra jingilo semida vitido. So then that's the teaching on impermanence. And as I said earlier, just to summarize whatever we were taught with these 7 different points, and especially the 7th one is very important. You try to read it at least, 1 time, 2 times, and see. And then the final kind of conclusion is as the song of the Milarepa. So you are meditating on impermanence to overcome impermanence. You are not meditating on impermanence because you want to be depressed, knocked out by impermanence. That's not the case. You are meditating on impermanence so that you can knock off impermanence. That's the whole purpose of doing this practice on impermanence. And when you knock off impermanence, then you knock off birth and death. When you knock off birth and death, then that's called liberation, nirvana. So that's the whole purpose of, practicing on this impermanence. And as said here by all quoted from various masters, so it's saying that if you feel your dharma practice is not improving, meditate on impermanence. If you feel lazy, meditate on impermanence. So like that, impermanence is, as I said earlier, one medicine that works for all our shortcoming of the Dharma practices. Any questions, or we are ready to go back home?
Yes, Kapo, there's a few questions. So the first one is, what are the greatest dangers for practitioners to lose the commitment to regularly practice Dharma?
Yeah, as I said, the text says, practice on impermanence, and that will make you a good practitioner. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question is, can you repeat the explanation again about emptiness that you gave? The short explanation, yeah.
Now it's emptiness. I usually joke that, easiest way to understand impermanence for people like who are not academic is past. Every one of us say that, okay, past doesn't exist. Everybody agrees that. Future is yet to come. So future also doesn't exist. But what you think is the present is there. You're happy, so that's why I say, be in the present moment. A big, statement, always say meditation, be in the present moment. And you are happy with that present moment. But later on, then you contemplate, how can present be present if the past and future doesn't exist? So present is also gone, because there's no reference point. Like if every human being on this earth was all like 6 foot tall, then there's no concept of one, you are short or you are tall, like that, no reference point. Similar like that, when the present loses the reference points of the past and future, it loses its foot, standing. Loses its, so then it's empty.
Okay, thank you, Khepo. The next question is, it was said earlier that if we even think of this impermanence, death, and fear, and feel fear, etc., it is not as important as feeling that samsara is meaningless. Can you elaborate more on this in a bold way that this important point really sticks?
Samsara is not, they go together. Why samsara is not important is because it's impermanence, right? So like that. So it becomes all coming to the point that everything is impermanent. Samsara, as we went through, like, one day you're king, next day you're servant, and then, so all this happened just because of everything is impermanent, everything fluctuates and changes. So that's what it means then, the samsara is meaningless. So they all kind of help each other.
Right. Okay. Should we better make arrangements to donate our statues and material belongings before dying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're too much attached to your statues, then maybe you donate it before, no? That you don't worry, just keep on practicing. After you die, then the statue will be statue, somebody will take care of it. Or even it becomes an art piece, or just doesn't, but still, of course, then if you think that it has to be respected, someone, will take care of it, then you can donate, of course, yeah.
Okay, I think this is our last question. Sometimes as I hear this teaching on impermanence and death, more and more often, I start to feel numb about it, or numb to it. How should I fix this problem?
Yeah, that's what I was all talking about, this death, you become immune to. So that is, again, thinking, again, deeply thinking that, it is true or not, If it is the truth, then you cannot just numb it off. So whether you are numb or not, then if there is a danger, then there is a danger. You cannot be just blindfold yourself to the danger and seeing. So long, I think it's a joke. So long time ago, there was a stupid guy, there was no restroom, so he was doing his business outside, but then he thought that if he blindfold himself, then nobody can see him, So it's kind of like that. If you just numbing it, doesn't help, because if it's the truth, it is there, so you need to think about it and become more sensitive to this, That's all about, as I was using that example of you had a motion sensor. So if your motion sensor is, running out of battery, or update yourself, in that way, you have to be more sensitive to impermanence. Otherwise, you become what you call as dead. It happens to everyone, First time you, as I said earlier, then you feel, oh, there's something, And second time, then you think it's so and so. Third time, then you take it as a regular thing. Oh, these teachers always come and say us everything is impermanent. Okay, then we'll do the dedication.
Sunam di tham je ziba nye tham ne nye bien ranam pam je shin je ga na che wa long du ba ye si ben sol do an do ra shu rin chen je zon di do wa gen da du dam be chu dam me da ra shin ra shin de ni Zuban da jene chunga ruben jiden ze parashu sanjen demban darshin je parashu semjen damje Dinshin je parashu nindan sendu julan ju parashu ranshin dunyi Dunjin dum parashu jewa kundu yanda lama dan dame ju jen pala long ju jen sadan lamji Yundi rabzo nen dorje chanjin go fan yur dum shu Omben zara sadu samaya manu balaya bedra sadu dino batira diru me bawa sudo kayo me bawa Anurado me bhava subho kayo me bhava sarva siddhe miraya ca sarva karma sudha me zirdam shiriyam guru ho ha 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 ho bhagavan sarva tata gata hridaya bedza mame menza bedze bhava maha samaya sadhu
So